All right, guys. So the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is about Vastu myth busting session, because I am 100% sure that irrespective if you're gone on Google or you have multiple relatives and friends and other clients of yours itself coming and telling you so many things that this has to be done, this is not the correct positioning, this is the correct positioning. But what exactly is the truth behind all of this? So I've taken up about 10 of them to help you get an understanding, and the most common ones that come up to get you a logical understanding to actually why, if it is true or if it is not, and whether it is a myth or whether it is not. All right. So the first thing that I want to kind of break the entire commotion happening is there's a huge myth that surrounds the fact that when a person believes in Vastu, only then does the Vastu of that particular space they're residing them actually impacts them, which is actually false. Irrespective of whether you believe in Vastu or not, or if you believe in the faith of it, or if you just have no faith at all, irrespective of these conditions, if you are residing in a particular space, the impacts of that space according to its vastu placement is going to have individual impacts of each of this on individual people living in that space. All right. Irrespective if you believe it or not, it does not matter, it will still impact you. So that was the first myth I wanted to bust. The second thing, majorly found in people who believe or come from a Hinduist perspective background, is regarding the placement of figurines or idols or photo frames of Lord Ganesha in the entrances of your compound gates or on top of your entrances of your main doors. Now, when you actually look into Vastu in a mythological perspective, I think you guys have heard this story many times from your old, like your ancestors, your grandmothers or grandfathers, that the story behind it is actually linked when, Goddess Parvati actually wants to go inside the house and she had some work that she wanted to do. To be specific, she wanted to take a bath and she wanted someone to guard the main entrance of the house. So when this was discussed, she created, God Ganesha, and she asked him with the only work that was assigned to him was to become a Dwarapalaka or to become the guardian of the main door. Now, little did Ganesha know that Shiva himself was his father, but when Shiva came back and wanted to enter the house, Lord Ganesha did not allow him in. And when this happened, there was a fight between the father and son, which led to Lord Shiva kind of chopping off Ganesha's head, from which, Ganesha's head was replaced with an elephant's head, and all that of this happened. But the concept, like what exactly are we deriving from this conceptual story, is that if you actually place a Lord Ganesha, specifically Lord Ganesha figurine, either in the entrance of the house on top or any of the sides, or either on the compound entrance, like the gate entrance, it is not favorable because this is told to bring in a lot of fights, either with your surrounding or your neighbors, or with within, the people living residing in the house. So this is a big no-no, and this is not a myth. This is just from the basic fundamental understanding taken from the mythological story. Of course, Ganesha is one such god, but there are other gods. Generally, is not suggested to have anywhere in the entrance. Specifically, Ganesha be. All right. The next thing that I want to cover is regarding another myth that many believe it's true, is that not having adjacent washrooms and a kitchen area. So actually, if you deal deeper into understanding your Pancha Mahabhuta, or the five elements of nature, along with taking into consideration, your what you say Shakti Chakra, you will be able to understand that actually having a washroom area and a kitchen area placed, adjacent or next to each other with or without a common wall is actually favorable as per Vastu, because that is the way the energy flows harmoniously in a space. Of course, location of the kitchen and bathroom plays a very important role, but on a general note, having a washroom and kitchen placed next to each other does not have any negative impacts. It's actually a good placement. The next thing that I want to talk about, and majorly you can see this in the South Indian aspect, that it's not believed that having two or more doors aligned in a single axis or a straight line is auspicious. But actually, when you see majority, almost 90 to 95% of temples, on a general note, when you go into the planning level, the door of the sanctum sanctorium or the garbhagriha is exactly aligned with the main entrance of the temple. It can be two doors, three doors, however, but they're all in the same axis, the same line. And this is actually good because this shows connectivity within the house or within the space. and hence this is actually a good way of having good impacts in an overall good atmosphere and flow of energy, having straight line doors. And it is a myth that it is not good to have doors in a straight line, and this is why the reason is. Okay. The next thing that I want to talk about is understanding the accuracy of directions. Now, this Vastu Chakra that you see over here is the 16 zones that is there placed on a 360-degree angle. And when you take any plot that you want to design and when you locate the north, you have to superimpose the plan of the Vastu Chakra exactly over the plan of the plot. The reason being, even if there's a slight 5-degree or 2-degree or 3-degree shift, it can cause major disruptions because each zone only stands for 22.5 degrees. So even a 5-degree shift can cause a huge, huge negative impact. So make sure you're aligning it properly on paper and also actually doing the same on site. All right. But yes, this is very important that we have to maintain accuracies in directions. The next thing that I want to let you guys know about is most of the times when you go into builders, or if you want to look for houses that are construction, or if you're getting a house constructed, many clients, irrespective if they know Vastu or not, they come up with one thing that they say is that they want their puja room in the northeast zone, which is actually a debatable concept because this is a 50% myth and a 50% factually correct also. And the reason why I'm saying this is when you go into understanding northeast zone and its attribute, the northeast zone is related with mind and clarity. So having a puja room in this corner is actually favorable because when you pray in this zone, you have a clear mind and a clarity of your thoughts in your mind. So it is believed that when you're praying, you're actually praying the exact thing that you require. So you are praying in the most peaceful manner, in the most clarity manner, and you're attracting the same. So that is why Northeast is one of the most important zones. All right. But it is not the only zone to place a puja room. When you understand all the 16 zones in detail, you will be able to understand that there are other zones which are good for keeping a puja room and can also be beneficial and auspicious as well. But again, Northeast is not the only zone for keeping your puja room. All right. The next thing that I want to talk about is the study desk placement. Majoritively, when you come to South India and when you go into rural aspects as well, there are many people who actually suggest a particular student to sit in a particular zone for you to make most out of the session and to get good grades. But the logic behind it is not the same. Again, coming to the basic funda that northeastern zone deals with mind and clarity. So when you actually place a study table or a study desk, or you sit there while you're working or studying, you will be able to have a clear mind and a clarity of thought. So when you're studying, will you also be able to grasp things better? But even for creative fields or whichever field, whether you're studying, your professional way, anything, sitting in this zone and working actually gives you a very good impact. But one thing you have to know, it doesn't matter which face you're sitting, as long as you're sitting in the correct zone. You don't have to face the north, you don't have to face the south, you don't have to face the east or west. You just have to have your study desk, and you should be sitting in the perfect zone to make most out of it. The next myth that I want to talk about is understanding the staircases. So when you actually understand Vastu in detail, you'll be able to realize that staircases can be classified as two ways. One is clockwise run and an anti-clockwise run. To be very honest, again here, this is a myth because it does not matter whether your staircases are running in an anti-clockwise run or your actual clockwise direction. The only thing that matters to make sure you have an auspicious placement and to get better benefits is whether your staircases are placed in the perfect zone. Only if they're placed in the perfect zones will you be able to get and make most out of the placement and get favorable results. So again, this is a myth. The next thing I want to talk about is regarding entrances. So when you come into understanding entrances, you will realize that the 16 zones can be further classified for having 32 individual entrances, where each direction, that is south, north, west, and east, have 8 entrances individually. So when you look at an astrological perspective, out of the 8 directions in south and 8 directions in west, you will see there are a couple of zones which of entrances that are actually favorable to have your entrances, irrespective if you have a strong kundli or not. The second way of understanding if you have a good entrance with the south is checking your kundlis and astrological signs and to see whether a south or a west entrance is favorable for you or not. But if you actually see there are multiple celebrities like Amitabh Bachchan himself, which he has a south facing entrance, and which is actually proven beneficial for him if you have actually seen a life trajectory. So you guys can go on Google, you can do his review or see case studies of his house, and you'll actually be able to see that there are favorable aspects in both south and west, but of course limited comparatively. The next thing that I want to talk about is toilets. Now, when you understand the northeastern sign, north sign, and all, the whole chunk of it is actually related to the water element, because it is a water element area. All of these are coming in. And when you talk about a toilet or a kitchen, they also have some functionally, they have water used in it. So if you're looking at a toilet, use it for flushing, sinks, and all that. And again, kitchen for washing areas and, having your drinking ROs and all. But when you actually understand individually in your toilet area, specifically when you're looking at the wash closet or your commode, the whole perspective of it is you're flushing out all the toxins that is coming into your body through the commode and it's going out. So you're flushing it out. When you look at the functionality aspect of it and you relate to the attribute of northeast, especially where northeast deals with mind and clarity, you will be able to understand that it's basically relating to flushing out all the mental clarity out of your life, which is the worst placement possible. So that is why even when you look into remedies of northeast, you will see that having a commode in this zone is not favorable, and there are no remedies apart from removing it or not using it. Even in other elements of water, like your northern zone, if you have a commode, there is a remedy to a certain extent, but northeast is the most delicate and the most sensitive area where no remedies work. So make sure you have your toilets not as much as possible falling in your north or northeastern zone or any water element area. You have other good placements for having your toilets, and you can consider those. Okay. The next thing that I want to talk about is square plots. Now, again, as time immemorial, you must have heard a lot of your ancestors or your just people saying in general that, square plots are very auspicious. Yes, square plots are auspicious, but also there are other shapes of plots as well, which are equally and more auspicious as well. So it's not just limited to square plots. So that is a myth as well. And there's another thing that I think most of you would have heard from people who are really wanting to get their family members married is not to allow girls, especially of marriageable age, to sleep in the northwest zone. This is a myth again. The reason being the northwest zone, when you look at the attribute associated with it, it results and it deals with support and banking aspects. So it has nothing to do with what a girl has to be married, because people generally say that, if unmarried girls sleep here, they do not find partners quickly, which is a myth. There's nothing like that. This completely zone deals with support and banking aspects. So it's completely fine having a girl of a marriageable age having her, what you say, bedroom here. When I mean bedroom, I mean the orientation of the bed head is in that zone. It's absolutely fine. Okay. And the last two things that I want to cover regarding Vastu myth busting is one is understanding basements. Again, basement is something that is the most debated topic, the most underestimated, space of a house. But actually, if you consider as per Vastu, there are certain zones or placements or certain conditions where actually having a placement can give you the most auspicious results. So having a basement is not inauspicious. Considering a few conditions, it is very auspicious. And one last thing that I want to cover before we end is placement of dressing table. Again, when you look into Vastu, you will be able to realize that mirrors are dealing with water element and reflectivity. So placing a mirror in which zone is more important than which side it is facing, whether it's bed say facing or not, it does not matter. To give you an example, if you have, your mirror placed in the northeastern zone is related to water, mirror is water. It doesn't matter if it's facing the bed, the south, west, whichever direction. Placement of it is perfect. But if you're going to place it in areas which is anti-element to it, it's going to become a huge problem. So that is about your dressing tables and the placement of it as well. So this is about the Vastu myth busting that we have in store for you.